I've seen Cenk get bullied too. He, in the beginning when defund the police was becoming popular, Cenk was smart. He was like, this is a stupid slogan. And 80% of people are against defunding the police. But slowly but surely, because his audience is supposed to be like more on the left, he started saying, listen, I'm gonna be this defund the police guy. And now every time he talks about it, he's like, we're for defund the police. And then it's like a 30-second explanation. He's for it, but then he gives you like the 45-minute pitch of why that doesn't actually mean defund the police. He was right the first time. Defund the police is a stupid slogan.
Yep.
I wish I would have invented it for the Democrats to use because it's tanking them across the country. But yeah, so I've seen him get bullied by his audience. So this might be an issue where he's like, that's questionable. But over time, he got browbeat by his audience.
The most fascinating thing now that I see with the Young Turks is Cenk's insistence that the alt-left exists. And what does that mean? Glenn Greenwald, Michael Tracy, Aaron Mattei, and Jimmy Dore. The alt-left. I love it. Yeah. That's not what alt-left means. It's not what it ever meant, and it never really caught on anyway. So it's funny that he tries claiming that the people who criticize the establishment and his fake progressive movement are alt-right and alt-left. It's like, dude, maybe you've just lost the plot because you're chasing the dragon, man. You want the ratings, you want the clicks. You look at the supercuts of the Young Turks over the years, and it's really, you can really see how they've compromised over and over and over again.
I saw a clip of them they had the new hire, and she was like 3 days on, and he was like, what career? You don't have a career. Do you ever see that?
Oh, Kim Horcher.
He kind of, and he you could tell immediately he felt horrible about it, but he was so chill. Back then, he was so much more relaxed. He's so like agitated. Things have like tweaked him out over the last like 6 years.
I totally get it. I do.
We talked
about this.
Man.
We talked about this the other day, man. This is important. When I got started in more actively, publicly in politics, like Occupy Wall Street, I went to Occupy Wall Street because I saw these videos of police is just dragging a guy by his foot and it's like his hand's bleeding. But I also knew a bunch of hackers because I had been hanging out at hacker spaces in Los Angeles. I knew a bunch of hackers, around the world actually, because I made some friends, got some connections. These all were on the left. All the hacking community was on the left. Anti-establishment, anti-Fed, anti-intelligence agencies. They were pro-journalists, pro-information, pro-free speech. And then something changed. A bunch of these hackers all of a sudden became authoritarian and pro-FBI. In fact, some of these people were on Facebook cheering for the FBI raid on Giuliani. And I commented on the post saying, I'm so glad to see you've finally been de-radicalized, that you would now actively support the FBI. And they're like, well, I mean, they're doing the right thing now. Dude, these people on the left used to laugh about the trolling that Weave would do. I can't even say the name of Weave's organization. I cannot say some of the things he's done. One of the most notorious trolls, if not the most notorious troll on the internet, saying the most offensive things. A bunch of people on the left recognized the right of free speech, and they were edgy, and they were fun, and they mocked things, and they made jokes. And you had George Carlin, and George Carlin would say all of the racial slurs in the world in his bit. Then something started to change over the past 10 years, rapidly and quickly, where, for whatever reason, the leftists fell in line. So imagine you're Cenk Uygur, and you're watching the transformation of your audience. I got to be honest. The last time I saw Cenk, he yelled at me because he was losing it. Before that, I was shaking his hands at VidCon. So only probably three and a half years ago, maybe, talking to him about ad rates and YouTube. And then he started to lose it because, like you said, initially he's like, defund the police is wrong. And now he's embracing it. The left has dramatically changed. And I think there's one really easy and obvious reason. Young people who are authoritarian and pro-state were growing up, entering the public left, the political left, and influencing what was being said. And so now all of the prominent establishment leftists had to start falling in line with their changing audience. So they embrace all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I've seen some sad stories. I'm not going to get into the full details, but I know some people who... I'm not going to get into full details. I know some people who have gone through severe depression. I mean, you live with these people. You're friends with them for 10 years. You've gone through all these adventures. You've said every awful thing you can think of because you're trolls on the internet, hackers who believe in free speech. And then one day, all of your friends are saying, you can't say that anymore. Everything you've done is wrong. And we're going to cancel you unless you come out in support of us. And then you're thinking to yourself, like, these people don't believe in anything we've done. They hate who we are. They hate what we've done. What do you do? So Cenk losing his mind, freaking out, snapping at me at Politicon. yeah, he's trapped. He is trapped in that box.
Well, it's frustrating if you're like the network and you see all this talent come through your system and then they can go be more successful on your own and you're seeing your numbers drop, but your former employees doing well. Dave Rubin, I've done videos about how Anna and Cenk have been unbelievably nasty to Dave Rubin, talking about how like they never liked him. They wanted to hire his husband and they like embarrassed him in front. It's really nasty stuff that you should never air publicly. Jimmy Dore. The only difference with the Jimmy Dore thing is Jimmy Dore is using Cenk's rhetoric more effectively. Cenk's the big money in politics guy. He'll tell you, if you take $5,000 as a congressman from the NRA, then you're corrupt and you want children to die by firearms. Well, Cenk took $20 million from Jeffrey Katzenberg. So when Jimmy Dore points that out, everything Cenk has been saying up until this time, Jimmy has the rhetorical advantage. And it's like, yeah, you shouldn't have put all your eggs in the money in politics basket.
What we're seeing with the meltdown of the Young Turks is it's exactly what you were saying. It's funny that you have these people who were all part of the network in some way, and they move on and find huge success. Jimmy Dore is still very much saying what he's always said. He's critical of the establishment. He's critical of Democrats and Glenn Greenwald as well. I remember I criticized Glenn Greenwald because I thought he was being unfair to CNN because he was doing this event and he was talking about CNN and I was like, come on, like, we can rag on the mainstream media, but hold on there a minute. Now I look at a lot of things they're doing and I've got my criticisms of Glenn Greenwald, absolutely, but I'm impressed that he stuck to his principles for as long as he did, to the point where he actually leaves The Intercept. Cenk Uygur is watching that. He's watching the people that used to represent, the people that do represent his values, what he actually believes deep down inside. But he knows he can't do anything because he's tethered to this contract. Here's what I think. $20 million, who do you take it from?
Jeffrey Katzenberg.
So he can't just come out and say the things he wants to say because he has contracts. He's locked in place.
Is Katzenberg the Disney guy?
Yeah, a former Disney CEO, yeah. Big Hillary Clinton bundlers.
Imagine you have a contract that's like, you got to do X, Y, and Z. And they're like, don't worry, we're all about the left and progressives, right? And you're like, this works. You sign the deal. Then the progressives become authoritarian crackpot ideologues. And you're looking at former employees leaving and your ship is sailing and you're like, I literally can't get off the boat because of the contract I signed.
So are they stuck under like a contract?
It's an investment. So like the fact that they're not profitable, like, you have to make a return for your investors. It's not like they bought I'm sure they bought a portion of it. You don't give somebody $20 million for nothing. Right. 0% of their company, but it's a private company, so a lot of the details are hidden. But yeah, it's that. And what's funny about Glenn Greenwald and Jimmy Dore being anti-Cenk is that Cenk, Jimmy Dore, and Greenwald were all a part of the crew that tried to kick Sam Harris out of the left years ago. So like these are like, so when you were saying Glenn Greenwald was unfair, like not CNN, to Sam Harris, he's unbelievably unfair to him. Jimmy Dore too, and Jimmy Dore, like, even though I'm enjoying this. Like, I'm not a Jimmy Dore fan, and I can't stand people in my audience, so hi guys, that say Jimmy Dore's the correct leftist, Jimmy Dore's the good leftist. Like, let me be 100% clear about something. Have you ever heard this idea that the Young Turks inspired a police shooting?
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, so it's the Baton Rouge one. I won't name the name for the algorithm purposes. The Young Turk that inspired them was Jimmy Dore.
I do remember hearing about this vaguely.
Yeah. And you can find the videos online. So, like, for me, like, it's a battle of the scummy. I will watch it for entertainment, but I'm not jumping on any team.
I like Jimmy Dore for one reason. He'll talk to you. He'll be straight about it.
Yeah.
So he has his opinions. He makes his videos. He talks about what he want to talk about. I disagree with him on a decent amount, but I know that I can message him and he's like a real human being. Right. And so I know a lot of people Ian and I have differing opinions, but if we can actually talk and you'll be honest and in our conversations like real people, then I'm cool with that. Like, I could hang out with a communist so long as they were totally honest about what communism was and meant. Just don't lie to me and be real. And I'll be like, well, maybe we won't be friends, but I can have a polite conversation and be like, that's cool,
But my thing is that if I speculated terribly on a story and that turned out to be false and that inspired somebody to kill 3 cops, I would at least acknowledge it publicly.
Let me explain, the Young Turks rage in this way. I signed a deal with Univision's, and Disney Fusion's company. It was a 2-year contract. It was for a lot of money. And when they started doing bad stuff and I didn't like it and I didn't want to play that ridiculous woke game, they just put me in golden handcuffs, where they were basically like, sit back and do nothing because there's nothing you can do. And I tried breaking I said, will you let me out of the contract? They basically said no. They didn't say it outright, but they were like, well, let's revisit the conversation later. And then I'm just sitting there like, I can't do anything. Now, for me, I didn't lose my mind because I had no obligations to be on camera saying these things. I literally was just like, I'm not going to go on camera and say these things. There was an instance where I was doing a mini doc on this Cop Watch group. And when I was talking to some woman about police brutality, and then it was the craziest thing I brought up. We were just talking. And then I mentioned, when she said, growing up and being Asian in New York, you deal with a lot of police brutality. And I was like, yeah. I was like, my family absolutely dealt with a lot of this stuff too, because I'm part Korean. And then she immediately snapped at me and got really mad and said, no, you have no idea what you're talking about. Take that back. And I was like, but my family did go through this stuff. Like we had bricks thrown through our window. And then I was just like, dude, if you guys want to finish this shoot, I'm not gonna sit here and take a racist, insults or anything like that. I don't have to be here, and I don't want to be involved in this. And I'm not gonna be the person on camera who's sitting there going like, oh, I'm so sorry that no, I'm not doing it. So they put me in golden handcuffs, but I didn't have to be, on camera. Cenk has to host his show, and so what if he starts saying things like the establishment is bad? He did say the Democrats lie all the time. I can respect that. But what if he starts coming out and saying, Trump's right about the manufacturing base leaving? It's going to hurt the investors. They're going to revolt, and they could come after him for breach of contract. You're hurting the company. You are hurting the investment. You owe us. So he has no choice but to sit on this boat forever, for however long. It could be forever. It's an investment. It could be forever. He's trapped. And he's watching Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald, and they're on the shore waving goodbye as he drifts further and further out into oblivion.
Huh. And the reason Jimmy has the overwhelming advantage in their dispute is because based on the ideological parameters that Cenk has set out, Jimmy's right. Like, force the vote for Medicare for all.
Yep.
Jimmy's right. I've disputed the polling around Medicare for all multiple times, but that doesn't matter. They all theoretically believe that everybody's in support of Medicare for all, and now's the time to do it. Jimmy Dore was 100% right in that progressive sphere, which is why Cenk lost publicly in the PR battle over that.
I mean, I think the Young Turks are not long for this political landscape, to be completely honest.
And Anna did that was an attempted blackmail.
Yeah, we'll explain that. What was that?
So what ended up happening is Jimmy was hitting the Young Turks for a long time and overforced the vote by name since like November, December, whenever he started.
Well, let's start from that part. Basically, there were progressives who said the squad and progressive members of Congress should withhold their support for Nancy Pelosi unless Pelosi agrees to have a floor vote on Medicare for all.
Yeah.
The Young Turks were like, no, don't do it. Don't help Republicans.
And they would make up that there was a scenario where they could make a Republican speaker, which, by the way, being a speaker without a majority is meaningless anyway. So even if that wasn't a lie, which it was, Cenk was lying about that, it wouldn't mean anything. So Jimmy was calling that out because he was a big advocate of it. And it seemed like Cenk was jealous that like Jimmy thought of it, or maybe he was trying to preserve relationships with the squad or something like that. Over time, that led into Jimmy attacking Cenk as a televangelist because you get $20 million from Katzenberg, but you're out there every day like, I need money. The funniest email by far, and I'm on the Young Turks email list, so I saw it, is where they said, we'll get you $2,000 stimulus checks. If you give us money, the Young Turks, we'll pressure people in the Democratic Party to get you stimulus checks.
Wow.
Cenk's fundraising is really greasy and televangelisty. So Jimmy's been slamming him over and over again. And again, a rhetorical advantage because the money in politics argument, according to Cenk's own logic, Jimmy's right. So Anna Kasparian pops into Jimmy Dore's DMs, and she runs down this thing. She's like, I've been letting you talk like nonstop about me and TYT, and that's going to end. I'm going to bring up this time that you harassed me or apologized. And she names like one instance where he apologized in there, not like alludes to it. And then she says, one time you said that you like my jeans and you wanted to buy a pair for my wife, right? Which
for his wife.
Yeah, for Jimmy's wife. So Jimmy, like, if you get that message, you have to come out publicly. Because if Jimmy stopped talking about the Young Turks, even if it was for a week, Anna could have said, look, I messaged him this. He hasn't talked about us for a week. Therefore, he knows it's true. Therefore, he's a scumbag. So it's a total setup. So Jimmy comes out and tells the story. Turns out Jimmy Dore actually told the story months earlier. Oh, bump the mic. Jimmy told the story months earlier, the same exact story that he told now, without naming Anna. So, like, Anna tried to blackmail him in order to get him to stop. And Jimmy was criticizing her on policy, her and Cenk on policy. And she tried to dig up this thing that he apologized for. It was not that big of a deal.
I don't know. You know,
you could listen to the videos. Jimmy has them all out there.
That whole stuff gets a little bit too in the weeds of like drama between personalities.
It shows how nasty the Young Turks are. That something that Jimmy apologized for. Anna accepted the apology. 7 years passed by. Jimmy has criticisms of the Young Turks as a network and their policy positions, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, shut up, or we're gonna Me Too you."
So So this is where I think in the greater context for those that probably, if you don't care about the Young Turks, and I mentioned it's a lot of people. No, I'm not saying no one cares about the Young Turks. I'm saying probably people who watch us are like, I don't watch them.
I do.
It's indicative of what's happening to the mainstream left messaging. The Young Turks, big, powerful, prominent. They were like one of the first. They're on YouTube TV. They have their own channel. And I don't think they'll last long because you can't look, you know, he got booted from the Justice Democrats. You can't please this crowd. I mean, we just did a segment about how the Black Lives Matter activists got Boston Pride shut down. You cannot have allegiance to a group of people who will just gut you and eviscerate you at a moment's notice or without even a moment's notice. So the Young Turks are continually embracing nonsensical policy positions, notably like don't push a vote for Medicare for all. I was 100% in favor of the force the vote. Not that I thought it could pass, but Jimmy said, I want to know who opposes it. Let the Democrats say to their constituents what they really believe. And I'm like, yes. I thought it was hilarious. How many Democrats come out and they're like, we absolutely support Bernie, and they know their actual core constituency are moderate and don't want it. So when it comes to the vote, they're going to be like, no.
So this is where I had in Cenk Jimmy logic, it works. This is where I had the flaw, is because it's really easy to vote yes on a bill that you know for a fact is not going to pass anyway. So you wouldn't have really gotten a good assessment of who's in favor, who is opposed to it. Perfect example of this, Barack Obama votes against raising the debt ceiling as a senator. Now, when he's president and the Republicans are threatening to actually do that, he had to come out and say, look, I was grandstanding. Like, that's what you do. When you know a bill is going to pass for sure, and you think you can grandstand in voting the opposite way, that's what you do for political points.
But think about the midterms when primaries happen, and they could say, here's them saying yes or no. Make them put their money where their mouth is. I want honesty in politics. So if these people are like, I'm going to lie for votes, and then when it comes to actually voting, they have to make a choice, a hard choice. None of this wishy-washy BS. Then when the primary and the midterms come up, there's going to be a video over and over again of them saying yay or nay. So I agree, force the vote.
No, I think it fits perfectly if you're in that camp, but you could also vote present, remember.
That's right. And then what happens is, as Jimmy was stating, you get to, in the primary, say they refused to support Medicare for all. They are not progressive. Mm-hmm. Let that be known. Look, I don't agree with most of what these Democrats want, but I do agree the constituents have a right to know what they actually will do. I don't want none of this, I'll just do whatever the whims and tides of the day are going to be. No.
This came up before, man. It shouldn't be like, I'm going to trust this person to do what they said they're going to do. It should be a smart contract built into their job. They say they're going to do it when they're running, and then they're bound. And it happens automatically, whether they don't even get to choose.
There are issues with that, though. Like, what if they get in and then get handed a classified document and they go, ooh, wow.
Too bad.
I would be fascinated.
Tell the American people they got a document. Expose it.
Yep, that's true.
I would be fascinated if you had them all on record to see what would actually happen in the primaries, because Jimmy's theory of politics is that if you vote no on Medicare for all, you're losing in the primary. I don't think that's going to actually pull out in the correct way. Like Joe Manchin, if he voted, I know he's in the Senate, but if he voted yes on Medicare for all, like he'll probably win his primary, but he's losing to the Republican. Like he has triangulated his way into that Senate seat that should be a Republican Senate seat. And he's the most popular politician in West Virginia history, by the way, as a Democrat.
Who is?
Joe Manchin.
Oh, jeez.
Everybody doesn't. People don't like him, but the Democrats would not have their place in the Senate right now if not for him.
Yep.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.